Yo, everybody. Holla at your boy, Asmund Gold. He dropped the news on the terrorists. They went to their house. The guys, at like the Mamdani protest or whatever. I think they're at his house and then they're protesting, and then some guy did like a fucking jumping thing and jump board. He didn't want to do a leapfrog and then throw like this bomb using somebody to jump higher because he's a short guy and he doesn't have like a lot of strength. He's like a really skinny, pubic haired looking motherfucker, and then his friend, his accomplice, he's got a neck beard, and you think it's just like me judging the cover and making fun of him for the obvious low hanging fruit reasons, but no, the plot thickens. It gets more interesting. You see, ladies and gentlemen, they have a mansion that they live in, and they're 19, I think 18 and 19, so either they just turned, you know, 19, or like they're a year apart, and so that only means one thing: that's their parents' house, or like whatever, uncle, guardian, grandparents, whatever, right? Like, think about it, like the house is fucking like not only just a mansion, it's in New York State, right? So this guy drove all the way down to New York City to just and like gas is expensive too and everything, and just just to do some grassroots activism and like throw a fucking device because his parents can bail him out of jail. Fucking hell, dude. So most likely, Mamdani doesn't want to name, you know, Muslim terrorist, this and that, because he probably knows the parents. Oh, man. And talk about fucking losers and shit. Like, yo, I live out here in Brampton, and we got this rich neighborhood. Like, I'm not too far from it, actually. It's called Credit View. And it's like, yo, you'd think like these people are happy. They'd have anything they want. No, they're in the same position. Like, this is what these guys are, right? They have tons of money. They're loaded. They're like highly insulated and shit. Their parents tell them, yo, go out, make friends, this and that. But don't bring people back to the house. Don't mess around and shit, right? Now, that's none of my business. But like, you could only imagine just how isolation these guys are, and how badly they just want to fit in. And like the guy's 19, so he's born like 2006, 2007 time, maybe 2008 when Metal Gear Solid 4 came out. And then it just is one of those conspiracy about why he committed the attacks, because it's that's like Act 1 in Metal Gear Solid 4. He's got to fight against the PMCs and stuff. Honestly, I don't even know why he threw the device towards the cops and the mayor and shit. And why everybody's saying that he threw it towards like a crowd of people, which he didn't do. There was a crowd of people. And then there was a barricade. And then the cops were on the other side of that barricade. And then the guy ran up to this guy speaking on I think a megaphone or something, or a microphone. And then just did almost like a leapfrog, and then just tossed it, and then shouted Allah Akbar, and then ran away. And then his friend gave him something, and then they both got arrested. And here's the fucked up part, right? People were trying to get the other guy off the hook. Like, yo, he's the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. And it's just like, yo, shut the fuck up. But this is the malaise, the trash, the very dregs, the bottom feeding members of society. Like, here just happened a clear, in broad daylight, assault on police officers caught on camera, and this and that, and everybody, including the mayor, is downplaying it. And we all know why that is. It's because this kid is gonna do some hardcore ass federal time in prison. And because he like attacked the NYPD, most likely they're gonna have people waiting for him in there. The NYPD are not your friends, dude. You don't want to be doing shit like that. Think of them like a gang that's hired by the state of New York, like this New York City mayor and shit. Hired basically a gang of like, gun owning, trained, body armor wearing, got communications and shit. Like you're fucking screwed, man. Like even as a tourist, you go through there, you fear these people. Like these kids have absolutely no like self-awareness or it's like any like sense of like self-preservation, if you will. But it makes sense, right? Like, of course, you'd have a kid who comes from like a highly affluent area like that, where they're like, they fantasize the whole, um, what is it again? Oh, fuck, I'm so dumb. Easy E, F the police, right? And then like the analog into like the whole, gangster rap, and then the whole like Grand Theft Auto and thing. And here's this. This is like a fucked up like aside, and this is why I kind of made this video longer. I was actually gonna make it like close to like half an hour. I'm like, oh fuck that, I'm not gonna render this shit. Dude, Ghost of Yote, Ghosts just came out. What am I saying? Ghost of Yote, Legends, I mean. See, I just jumped off a hill because that's how new I am to this game. I'm like, how do I do this? But okay, like what I'm trying to say is, crap. I lost my train of thought. So what I'm trying to say is like this has been something that's been cooking a long time, and we've heard like whispers about Antifa and these left-wing protesters. We even saw recently the anti-Iranian protest, which was supposed to be grassroots, just like regular people protesting. No, against the war in Iran, so they're protesting for the Ayatollah. And you see this like black dude handing out like these signs and shit. He doesn't want to say anything. He's just like got his fucking dick tucked between his legs. These other girl like handing out these like free Iran from the tyranny of America or some shit like that on this yellow sign. And it's like, yo, these people are all fucking scum. Including like, yo, I heard like the news cycle, they got like fucking bashed out, and like they were trying to like change their whole image on how they're viewing Khomeini's son being the successor of to be the next leader of Iran. So it's just like I said, like they're rubbing their hands together and they're waiting for Iran to basically almost go bankrupt and just give them like a fucking shitload of oil. So they'll be good for like, half a year to a year and shit. Like that's how these greasy ass politicians think, I'm telling you, man. And I'm telling you also, like this like the Hassan style, rich, well to do um type of terrorist. And it's kinda weird because I look at these kids, right? And like yeah, they look young and they're like skinny and shit, but like they also look like, old, if you know what I mean, right? Going back to the whole factor of like inbreeding and like having, dwarfism, rapid aging, your cells are just deteriorating faster, you look older. And also you're like your brain damaged and shit. Like the guy just, you know, pretty much had his whole life ahead of him. And of all people he decided to attack, it was just like a place that most likely he felt safe because like I said, the next attack, like the next major terrorist attack, is most likely going to be um, a right wing or like a separatist movement or anti-immigration movement that will see significance. So like let's take Rupert Lowe as an example. So like something like that. And yeah, I hate to be the bringer of bad news, this and that. And of course, you know what? Just want to be wrong about it. You know, just want everyone to be okay. But that level of like wishful thinking is dangerous. It's just gonna put you in like harm's way inevitably. Like, of course, I could be wrong about it, but you don't want to be taking that chance. If I were to make like an assessment to like all these people taking place, like these attacks and stuff, they all share the same quality of like aimless and useless nature in their life. Like, the kinds of people that, like, I was very insecure when I was 19 years old. I had my first girlfriend, and I thought I was gonna lose her. So, in order to keep her, or like, in my head, I want to keep like impressing her, and like, because I was a strict vegetarian back in those times, I started eating chicken again just to impress her. And it was like, I don't know if it worked, to be fair. I just thought in my head that like, I'll do anything to not look like a kid, not look like someone that is unattractive. At least that's the way I thought. I mean, it's my first girlfriend, right? Like, at the time, right? Now, I wouldn't put it by me that this guy probably had some girlfriends back in the day and this and that and shit. But like, you gotta understand, like within like young people, like the whole threshold to getting a girlfriend is much easier because it's just like okay, you just hit up a dating website and boom. And then like you think about what does that do for the interpersonal relationships and shit? It makes it more sterile and stuff. It's like okay, let's go on a date. They go on a date. This guy's probably paying because his parents are like loaded and shit. Um, she gets like popcorn, whatever, a drink. Probably costs like 1.5 or twice as much as the movie does. Whatever, they hug and they kiss. They go home, and she never calls him again. And like obviously, like I'm fabricating these stories in my head to like try to paint a picture as to why this guy would just like throw his fucking life away at like 19. He's got like a 18-year-old, possibly going 19 as well, accomplice. Like if they're not like the same age, they're just like a year apart and shit. Like they're just like homies and stuff. And like you look at the both of them, and it's like there's nothing really all that wrong about them until you realize that. And I was talking to like my tattoo artist's well his coworker because my tattoo like artist was just coming in. I came in early for my appointment, and I was talking to him about the whole idea of like you know excuse me. So basically like I told him that like something of around the range of like 50% of the kids, the male kids, were on steroids, PEDs, some kind of physical enhancing drugs. 50%, and it's just like nightmare fuel as to why I would want to like raise a kid without like teaching them martial arts or if they want put them in a sports team or whatever, build camaraderie, something to like build some muscle because it's throwing them to the wolves. Because I bring that up because you look at this kid and it's like you look at this kid and then you realize like I think clavicular is like a year or two like away from him. He's not like 19, he's like 20, 21. So you see the juxtaposition of these two kids, and then just like recently, like, I was just having this like we were all like having a laugh at it because like Asmund Gold's watching it, it's just like how ridiculous is this is and like how funny it is, just comedic. But think about this, like the social structure that surrounds these young men is like a fucking high school elementary type of initiation type shit, like hazing type shit that doesn't go away. Like what the fuck? I thought that like that was when you were just like young and stupid, and then like you thought that like yo that was normal and shit, and it was just like it was more or less something that like dumb people did because it's like you go to school with stupid people, then you have to listen to like what they want to do. It's fun, I guess. And then like you have these people smashing their bones and like working out, which is healthy, but then they're like injecting shit. What the fuck? And then they like their dick doesn't even go up anymore, and they're fucking subhuman. They're like you know what I mean? Like you're gonna be like, oh, that's so insulting. Like how can you dehumanize these? Because they're not. Okay, like name a human being outside of like having a terminal ass disease and shit that like you got to inject something inside of you just to impregnate somebody, and that's like because of their own like PED use, their steroid use. He even admits it. Like they all admit it. And then like you take that and then you contrast it with this kid. He just looks all scruffy, skinny. His clothes are I don't know. Like I think he was doing that purposefully, like wearing clothes like that to like blend in on purpose. Like that's like a rich kid's idea of like what normal people would wear. It just like looks like semi-homeless looking clothing and shit. Because it's like you think about like, okay, what's the season, right? Winter, and then like what's the temperature? And like you could argue, New York City, it's hot or like it's more humid than like just out in the open or like other cities because of the population density and pollution, etc., etc. But you see this guy, he's just like fucking, wearing some like hoodie ass shit, some like fucking cargo pants, just winging it. You're just like looking at this, like, what the fuck you doing, dude? It's winter time, but like maybe I'm naive about it. Like I don't know the exact temperature in New York. I'm just like pointing that out as like how like what I mean? Like you have these guys, you got like Hassan wearing like all this designer shit and then like he has this t-shirt and it says eat the rich and it's just like dude you are rich. You're a fucking idiot. And it's just like he inspired another fucking, wave, another generation now of like goon ass terrorists and shit because and this is where I go into speculation theory. I think that like these mans they couldn't get a girl and shit because it's like when you think about it, what's the day that he did it? Like sometime around last week or some shit like that. Like the first week of March, basically. So spring break is basically next week or something like that. And then he's probably like wondering, shit, man, I got nothing to do for spring break. No girls like me. Oh shit. This is all Mayor Mamdani's fault, man. He brought all these fucking refugees. How am I supposed to fight the infidel if I can't get a girlfriend? Oh fuck this. I gotta go out and make this nail bomb. And then he made some other bombs at his house. His neckbeard homie. And then they had like, this like a little like you know thing where they're just like trying to help each other out and stuff with the Allah Akbar bomb. That's what the guy said too. He's like, "You think I just throw an Allah Akbar bomb? You know the guy throw an Allah Akbar bomb?" Like what's crazy though? So there was this Persian, I forget what team, female something team, right? And they went to Australia to play some sports or something, and then they didn't want to stand up for the Iranian national anthem, most likely because of like all of the violence that's happening back in their country. Well, I'm just assuming, right? Like, whatever. And then like their team coaches or something, like their advisors, they're basically the people who escort them everywhere because they're a female team and shit. And holy shit, right? Like, they're trying to get them to go back to Iran. right? And as they're trying to get them to go back to Iran, Trump calls in and he's like, "Yo, what are you doing? Grow some balls. You gotta let these girls, grant them asylum in your country. If you don't, I will." And the Australian Prime Minister is probably like, "Oh, fucking hell, man. He's just trying to make me look bad and shit. I don't want to take these girls in. I wanted that cheap fuel from Iran. All the fucking gas prices are gonna go through the roof. My economy's gonna take a hit. I'm not gonna get reelected. Fuck. Damn this Iran war." And the heart wrenching thing is not all the girls actually made it out. I think some of them got like kidnapped or something. But maybe like they won't let the planes leave because it's like that's how that is, right? But it just goes to show that like this is how the world is changing right before our eyes because again like they're trying to name Khomeini as like the successor, like all these people, like the people who want to buy the cheap oil, the people who want the regime to like stay in power, these girls to be like the rape victims of losers basically. And it's not the case anymore. So it's like, well, like he got attacked. Apparently got injured. So it's like, I just don't give a shit anymore. We all know how this ends. The goons are gonna come out. They're gonna try one last big terrorist attack, and if it happens, most likely you're gonna see all those restrictions I was saying again, and like no one's gonna fight against it. And, like obviously there are gonna be some, but they're just gonna be overwhelmingly outnumbered by like people with families, children. They're just concerned, just overly scared and shit, and like they won't shut up about it because think about like years and years of being in fear of uncertain death. By bomb, by car, by bullet, getting stabbed now, right? Like there's so many ways that these motherfuckers are gonna try to kill you, and I think the whole world's population is just like overall fed up with it. I think as a whole, like we'd rather just like not have them around and like have the restrictions than like have them around and wait for the time for them for like wait for the opportunity of a lifetime. I'm telling you, like they're gonna go for the kinds of people who would most likely be against their movement and would try to like stop them and shit. So like maybe even something like crazy like in Sudan, like they'll just like gear up and like make an example or something, or and the world is like a very crazy place now because there's the whole war with Pakistan and Afghanistan. Mostly started over the fact that like the Afghanistani refugees were wholesale rejected by the Pakistani border authority. So that's a point of contention between these two people. And I think that bad blood has been boiling ever since the. Wow, it's been so long, huh? Since Biden was president, and then he let um, the Afghanistani interpreters back on this plane, but then like the plane got flooded, and then like the country is the way it is, but like it's all goofy and all silly, and it's weird too. Like I would have never imagined this kid, or like these two kids, possibly they're like siblings or cousins or whatever related, like live in a house like this. And it's just blows my fucking mind, man. New school type of terrorists. It's like terrorists who live in mansions and shit. Hopefully their parents will bail them out. Take care.